and YouTube, just to make sure everybody can experience the event as the way it's intended.
Awesome. Now I can see you in the middle of the screen.
Hooray.
Instead of over on the side. Yeah.
Okay. Good on Relation Flicks. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody. Okay, we're live on Facebook. So Jessica, now you can go to my Facebook page and share it to yours.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Gonna go take care of that. All right. And I'm going to share it a couple more places.
So we definitely have people signing in here. I can see the numbers rising, so that's good. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Exciting. Wow. It's live in all the places, I think. So we're good.
Yep. Here we go. It's showtime. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. I love that you're here with us, and I love that I get to be here with Dr. Jessica and Anya Harvey. I've been following her work for a long time and have the utmost respect for her. I even did a program of hers last year just to get a taste of her medicine in real time. And she's an incredible facilitator. And I'm really excited to do a little bit of a juicy dive into ejaculation retention and sacred sexuality skills with her tonight. I would love it if there's something that's bubbling up in you tonight, if you have a question that comes forward, like an objection or a concern or any type of part of you that has experienced some inner movement, whether it's an opening or a contraction or an inquiry or curiosity, I would love it if you'd share it in the chat room. One of the biggest gifts of sharing things in the chat room and kind of being open about what emerges from us in talks like these is that same piece might be emerging in someone else, but they might not be able to understand it fully or have the language or vocabulary, the vocabulary to make sense of it. So if you can share that, if you do share that, and someone else resonates with that experience, there's like this quality of like feeling validated and like a sense of connected togetherness with everyone. So digitally, we can create a field here, and your engagement in the chat room will really be supportive of that. So I'd love that if you could go there on the RelationFlix platform. If you're joining us there, please busy up the chat box. It's right below the video stream in your web browser. If you're on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, please go to tinyurl.com/retention28 to have access to our live webinar chat room, because I won't be able to monitor all chat spaces all at once. I'll definitely visit them post-broadcast, but if you want your questions answered live by myself or Dr. Jessica, then please get into the webinar chat with us. So that's your invitation. I'd love to have you. And yeah, that's the technical preamble. So I'm going to pass it over to Jessica here.
Thank you, Stephen, and welcome everyone joining us tonight for this very special discussion. So I am also thrilled to be getting to offer this program with Stephen, who has clearly thought and practiced deeply in this subject matter and is as nerdy as I am about the topic, and has experienced really the enormous benefits of when this works. And so I'm just so excited to get to collaborate on every level. There's so much ease with the two of us working together, and we're having a lot of fun designing this program that's going to start in early October for all of you. It's 8 weeks, and it's one of my favorite topics to teach on, and I think it's not addressed very well normally in the rest of the world. You can get really dogmatic approaches or really cheesy approaches, and it's rare you get both a male and female perspective on this retention practice. So you're probably wondering why I, as a woman, am teaching this highly technical practice for male bodies. And if you're wondering that, that's a good thing to be asking and to be wondering. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I came to be teaching this. So one of the things that catalyzed what I call my sexual awakening, and by that I mean shifting from feeling shame and suppression of myself as a sexual being and not feeling much pleasure and not feeling very orgasmic and all that stuff, and kind of trying to perform and being stiff and stuck in my head and not really knowing how to just be free and wild and let go. So shifting from that into really stepping into my full power, my full permission, and unshaming that part of my life. One of the key elements in that process was getting to have a few lovers who practiced retention. And it just totally checkmated my mind, because when the man I was seeing at the time came with this practice, it made all the old stories and narratives I was running about sex uh, no longer applicable. So it was like, error, error, you can't do that anymore. You can't run the same old unquestioned narratives about how sex is supposed to go. And so it opened a space where there wasn't any pressure to race toward a goal. And it wasn't about me trying to make the man finish, right? It was no longer, I no longer needed to do that in order to be liked, in order to be enough. And all of a sudden, I had full permission and time to get in touch with my pleasure, and to start to voice what I was feeling and what I wanted. This basically destroyed patriarchy for me, the patriarchal model of sex. And I love how much it changed everything. And like I say, short circuited, checkmated my mind. And so, in that space where I couldn't just try to rush toward a goal, um, or make an old story happen or perform in the way that I knew how, I had no choice except to be really real all of a sudden. And being able to ask for what I wanted, to not be afraid of taking too long, and to try unusual things, to not go through the linear model of sex in order to find what felt good to me, really was the ultimate liberation for me as a woman, and such a huge gift. And that's just the beginning of my journey with men who practice retention. It's been years and years, and I've been able to witness what the male body can do many times. But I really want to help you understand this as men, that this is one of the biggest gifts that you could give your woman of liberation from in so many different levels.
Something that I love that you just spoke to, Jessica, is this quality of all of these new possibilities opening up for us. I remember when I was first learning the practice, probably about 14 years ago, 13 to 15 years ago, somewhere in that territory. And a quote that I heard from my teacher is that one of my teachers is that once you learn this practice, it's kind of like the kindergarten level, because there's this whole other world of possibility and learning and expansion and growth that's enabled because we learn this practice. And so it's kind of like opening up this like door of magical wonder that creates so much room and spaciousness for us to have all of these incredible um, explorations. So yeah, that's what I have to say to that.
Yeah, it really did feel like pure magic and wonder and this playground of totally new possibilities. And it was like I was innocent and young again and it's hard to describe how magical it is and what new forms of pleasure and togetherness arise. But it's really something beyond what your mind may even have an idea of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw in the comments that my screen froze while I was talking. So I'm just going to take 10 seconds to switch my Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
And I'm sorry for this disruption, everybody, but it's in service to a better broadcast. So just bear with me for 10 or 15 seconds here as I hop networks.
And as he's doing that, feel free to type your comments or questions in the chat. Well, Steve, if you missed a few minutes when I was speaking, then it might have been your screen that froze on your end. And you will be able to, we will post a recording of what I was saying. So you'll be able to hear it. And yes, MSB says a female partner's support of this seems really important. Yes, definitely. So this is one of the other blessings of this practice is that it requires that you get really good at communicating with your partner and that you guys start to talk about sex. Many people don't ever talk about sex. And many of the clients that I work with, it's just not done. And I know that it can be a challenge sometimes if your woman was raised in purity culture or there's religious shaming or conditioning. She may not be as open to talking about sex as you would wish, or vice versa. So it can really be very profound to start to address this in a couple and with your partner very slowly, with a lot of love, with a lot of curiosity and care for them. It can really help mm, your partner recover from some inner shame that they weren't even aware that they were carrying in some cases. So, this practice is profound for you as a man. It's profound between a couple. It's profound for the woman. You know, it's not just some weird um, side thing. It is a practice that calls forth your higher self on every level. And one of the things that I really love is supporting my man to develop this skill. It's been thrilling, bonding. I've had a few different relationships over the years where I have really supported the partner to develop this. And it just, I think it makes sex so much fun. And he's back.
Hooray.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for holding the stick, taking the stick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, someone was mentioning that a female partner's support of this seems really important, and I was speaking to that and how this practice is profound because it requires you to communicate as a couple about sex, and how so many people I work with don't have that habit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I'll piggyback off of that is I remember when I was first learning the practice, I was in a long-term relationship with someone. I let her know that this was a journey that I was on and it was really important to me. And one of the things that I found totally exquisite was in that really high level of attunement and highly dialed communication that we had, we were able to really feel each other during lovemaking. And there's
Mm.
just such this gorgeous synergy present where like I was there would be a moment where I'd be like right up against the edge and right almost tipping over the point of no return, and she would feel me and she would slow down without me meaning to say anything. She could see me breathing and circulating the energy through my body and up my spine and down the front, and she could feel it with me as I was doing it. And like that quality of attunement was created such a juicy, exquisite level of intimacy between us. It was just chef's kiss.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's one reason why I love supporting my male partners to develop this skill, because it requires me to be so present, and I can feel it too when they're right up against the edge. And I start moving my energy in a particular way to try to help them move their energy. And then I can even do things. We even do this thing together where I say, "What number are you at? What number are you at?" To like where on the pleasure scale he is, right? If one is,
That's so good.
yeah, not hard, and 10 is you're ejaculating. And it's really like nerd sex par excellence. But it brings in this playful element. It keeps it from being this like serious performance that you each do on your own while secretly fantasizing about something else, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What's emerging here for me now is one of that partner that I just referenced a moment ago. As I was learning the practice, she would also try to fuck with me. Like she would test me. Like I remember one time I was like we were making love and I was like, oh shit, I need to slow down, I need to slow down. So I pulled out and she's like, "Oh no, you don't!" And she like lunged across the bed and like grabbed my cock and was like trying to stroke it. Even though I'm like, "No, no, no, stop!" Like she exerted herself to try to make me ejaculate, and I think she like got super turned on by just like both like the playfulness of it, but also like my control of it, like my commitment. Like she got turned on by feeling my commitment to the practice. I'm sure.
Yes. Yes, it's such a huge turn on and commands respect, men. And my male lovers who have told me that they had a strict practice of retention, it was like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's what we're doing?" I heard it as a challenge sometimes too.
You're like, bah.
Aha, what are we going to do now?
We'll see about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I also very much respect the practice. um,
yeah,
Usually when I tell men that I don't need them to ejaculate, that I don't expect it, that doesn't have to be part of sex for me, they seem surprised, but often relieved. Yeah, gives them
yeah.
permission. Yeah.
I have that experience the other way around, actually, where like I don't have an ejaculative orgasm every lovemaking. I would say like 1 in 3, maybe 1 in 4, sometimes 1 in 2. It rotates seasonally, but yeah, like just like removing the pressure of the goal orientation of um like a really common sexual shadow that runs for people. That's like, I got my turn to get off. Now that my partner gets their turn, and there's kind of like this transactional quality to it. And like, of course, tracking that is important if there's a really distinct lack of mutuality in the giver and receivership dynamics in
Mhm.
a sexual connection.
Mhm.
For sure, that's important to speak to. But just like as a way of being, like you get your turn, I get my turn, it just makes it transactional and it adds this quality of it being goal oriented. So by removing the pressure to actually have an orgasm both on the men and women's side, it just creates so much freedom. And like there's also like the sense of like awe and gratitude that's evoked, because it's like if an orgasm does happen in one form or the other, it's kind of just like icing on the cake from a beautiful carnal, physical, sensual, sexual, spiritual adventure that we're having. It's
Yeah.
kind of just like the cherry on top of that part. And it's like this cool, beautiful bonus ad. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the tit for tat sex, it's so boring. You you just fall into a pattern so easily and then um always do the same thing. And I think that, having a practice of retention just opens up a whole other way of, present moment focused way of making love. And of course, you can always go back to transactional sex if you want to. Like, do it intentionally, though, right? Or for fun, instead of it just being the default.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I know, who was it, Dan Savage, that said, if you're queer, you always have to ask each other, well, what are you into before you have sex? Right. And hetero people have this distinct disadvantage of just assuming that sex equals intercourse and ejaculation. But if you have the practice of retention, then you get to ask each other, okay, what are we into this time? What do we want to do? And I mean, of course, it can even change in the moment, but I think it just allows so much more creativity.
That's really it. It's like you build this solid foundation, and then all of a sudden your inner sexual artist has so much freedom to kind of come out and play. From the man's perspective, prior to learning ejaculation retention, my lovemaking, like I was completely stoked. Like I thought I was a rock star if the lovemaking occasion lasted like 10 or 15 minutes. I was like, yeah, today was a good day. But for the most part, like I think I could make love for like maybe 5 or 7 minutes, sometimes less than that, and it would be over. And so I'd heavily rely on things like foreplay and other like more manual types of stimulations, hands, toys,
Mhm.
tongue, in order to help my partner feel satisfied after I had ejaculated. And so,
Mm.
um, yeah, like only having 5 to 7 minutes of like, oh my god, like sometimes
Mhm.
it's like this quality of like as soon as I entered her, I would be like, oh shit, like I feel like I'm gonna ejaculate already. Like I need to take this slow, and
Mhm.
I have to go at like in like gear 1 or 2, but I can't gear up beyond that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I know I'm going to spill over. And so, having a handle on this practice, like it's gotten to a point for me. Actually, many years ago, it got to this point where like I don't even actually have to think about it much anymore. It's just
Mm.
something that kind of runs. Like it's so deeply integrated and programmed in my system
Mhm.
that it is the baseline now. And so I barely have to think about it or focus on it. Sometimes I don't even think about it at all. And instead of having to think about slowing down and being like super methodical with my micro movements, because if I like penetrate her at like 10 degrees of my body turned this way at type of an angle, I know I'm going to ejaculate if I do that. So I can't do, like there's all these restrictions that are imposed when we don't have a handle on our ejaculation response. And so having a handle on it, like I said, really calls forward our intersexual artist. And I'm just like thinking of all the places that I could go. Like,
Mm.
um, yeah, like playing with energy in the body and like in our own self and channeling it through our partner through breath and technique that we'll talk about in the course.
Yeah.
There's a more like almost like there's a lovemaking ritual where I like spiritually and energetically connect to other celestial bodies and kind of like
Yeah.
channel the energy of celestial bodies into the lovemaking. I'm not going to go into too many spoilers there because I'll save that one for the course because it's a little bit more on the leaning intermediate advanced side of the practice. But the point
Mhm.
is that once that baseline is set, it's like the creativity can really come out because we don't have to constantly exert our focus on not coming in 5 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautifully said, yeah. How long have you been doing this practice, actually?
Somewhere in the 13 to 15 year territory. I kind of
Amazing.
lost trust somewhere in there. Yeah.
Amazing. I first learned about it 9 years ago, and I could not believe that nobody ever told me about this before, that this could be an option, I was just livid. Like, "Really? Why was this hidden?" Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like a part of my origin story was this wondering, like this deep wondering, like here we have women who are multi-orgasmic sexual powerhouses who are not only capable of multiple orgasms but multiple types of orgasms.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? Like here I am, like I can last in bed for 5 minutes, 10 minutes on a great day, and I get
Mhm.
one type of orgasm. Like, why is there this like profound sexual inequality? And I think just like this, like really like sincere, like almost philosophizing type of a space I was in was like this like energetic boomerang that came back in the form of a book on sacred sexuality. I was working at a bookstore
Mhm. Mhm.
at the time, and it was just one of the biggest blessings and most pivotal moments in my life, for sure.
Mhm.
And I was like, what?
Mhm.
Oh my God, this is what's up. This is legit. I need this. I'm in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Hmm. Yeah, it's a real blessing for men who struggle with early ejaculation. Undertaking this training, it is a great way to both develop multiple energy orgasms for you as a man and to do away with worries about early ejaculation and just really develop a lot of skill and mastery. Um, I love it because it makes foreplay core play as well, because it's like, as when you're developing this as a man, you're usually going to need to stop and pause and change positions and breathe and slow down and use things other than just your penis to have sex. And for me as a woman, I didn't even realize that that was allowed either. But when I started to be on the receiving end of such creativity, I started to have different kinds of orgasms and different kinds of pleasure and like full body waves of shivers and like dissolving into, oneness with the universe and all of these amazing things. I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know this was allowed." So
I I remember the first time I had an internal non-ejaculative energetic orgasm that just like a tsunami just like rippled up my spine, like up, and I felt it like flick up my eyeballs and like rush to the top of my head. And I was like, I believed this was possible. Now I really fucking believe this is possible. Like any level of skepticism that was in my mind was just obliterated. I'm like,
Mm,
this, yeah. I think that there are some people who do identify as skeptics, like especially when we talk about kind of like the energetic qualities of it, and particularly the spiritual qualities of this practice. And
yeah.
yeah, like what I would say to that is that like if we have an internal skeptic, I think that's a great thing. Like it's great for us to question objectively about things that we're told by people and really
Mhm,
depend on our lived experience to discover the truth. That's what the Buddha taught, right?
mhm,
And so I'm an advocate for that. And I'm also an advocate for really tracking when our inner skeptic can get in the way and really sabotage us of receiving something more fully. So that's a big invitation that I have for everyone is
mhm.
like be in your own scientific laboratory of discovery with this, but also just like track the inner skeptic's tendency to like push things away or like make it wrong or compartmentalize it as bullshit or not for me, or I don't know if that's possible for me. Like really just be available. The term that I love is coachable, is like just make yourself available to the exploration and really apply yourself earnestly to the practice. And I think that's really clutch for really getting it.
Yeah, such a good point. And just so y'all know, I am a scientist by training. I have a PhD in organic chemistry. So I was an expert in skepticism. And my partner, who has a PhD from MIT, he came to this practice. When I met him, he was at a place where he was like, there's no way this is ever going to feel as good as ejaculating or be anything other than it is. He was like, yeah, something kind of happens sometimes, but I don't know. So I worked with him over time and it didn't take very long. And now he's like, this is way more interesting than ejaculating. And it just, I, yeah, I applied several different techniques with him and encouraged him and supported him. And it just exploded energetically. And now he's like, he just can go forever having these beautiful waves of orgasm through his body. It's incredible to watch, and it feels just as good, if not better, than ejaculating, he says. I love it when men get to that point.
Speaking of things that are more interesting than ejaculation, full stop, like easily one of my top, probably two, it's in my top two favorite things about this practice is that I enjoy my partner being in pleasure, more than I enjoy feeling my own. And that's just the truth of it. There's just something so profoundly magical, beautiful, just like soul quenching. That's the word I would describe it as, soul quenching. There's something soul quenching to having complete control over our ejaculation response, getting to choose if and when we want to do it, and creating the space for my partner to ripple and quake and undulate in her wave upon wave of pleasure and orgasmic expression. Like, to me, the compursive quality of enjoying my partner's utter ecstasy,
Mm-hmm.
I get more pleasure out of that than I do out of ejaculation, for sure. Yeah,
And who wouldn't want to prolong that? Oh,
exactly. Exactly.
I know the vision of a woman in ecstasy like that, it's irresistible. It's so delicious. One of
It's
the
like a heart and soul open woman in intense pleasure, open-hearted, dripping and just radiating devotion for me. Like, oh,
yeah. Yeah.
soul quenching.
So well said.
Yeah.
Well, was there a practice that I almost want to give another moment of silence for that vision first.
One more thing that I'll say about that is, I don't know what it is. I found this consistently from the beginning of when I first started learning this practice all the way up until now, and it just keeps being self-evident and self-validating. There's something that magical happens after the 45-minute mark of lovemaking.
Yes!
I don't know what it is. Like, there's like some type of like esoteric code to that or something. I have no idea why the 45-minute mark is such a potent threshold to cross, but every time I cross that 45-minute threshold, like, something happens with my body. Like, I don't actually have to do the technique and the breathing practices, like the muscle, like the internal processes, like none of it. Like,
Mhm,
all of it just is irrelevant. And it's
mhm.
almost like something clicks in my body that's like, okay, we're not ejaculating today. I'm going to get with the program and stop trying to ejaculate so hard and just cut it out. Like, it's almost like the urge to ejaculate. It's analogous to me of like a little toddler reaching for the cookie jar. It's like, I want that. It's like, and then like the parent like slaps the hand away. It's like, no, you can't have that. It's like, but I. It's like, no. But after the 45-minute jar, the toddler just gets lost, and it's like God enters the building.
It's so amazing that you bring that up. We've never discussed this before, everyone, this particular 45-minute mark, but that was what I was taught at the Tantra school. And it was actually my own personal experience. Like, literally, I was like, I don't understand what is going on in my body. It's like a doorway to another dimension opened, but something changes.
Right?
Um,
Like there's like a threshold that's entered, like a portal or a threshold that's crossed or entered, and all of a sudden something is unlocked. And like, admittedly, uh, one of like the tender, like I wish I one of my tender longings is that I wish that I had more partners in my life that could last that long. It's like, it's totally a vibe when it's the man who lasts longer than the woman in bed. It's like, there's something just so satisfying about like a woman who's just like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. It's too intense. I need to stop. And you stop the occasion and you pull out and you still got your big old heart on. You haven't ejaculated yet. And you're just like, yeah. Like that's something that's super special that happens. And I find that happens after that 45-minute mark.
mm. I love being subversive in that way of turning cultural narratives on their head. Um, literally, maybe, and figuratively. Um, yes, and it really demands that your relationship be healthy and that you actually like each other. If yeah, if you're gonna be willing as a woman to be that open and that deep for that long with this man. So yes, it's a real standard or an indicator of the health of your relationship, you could say.
Yeah, yeah, and something that's alive for me on that note is that as having the ability to go to these places as a man, I actually find it to be it requires a high level of integrity and responsibility to wield it, right?
Mm,
Because like if I'm just like having one night stands every night and I'm taking these women into like 45 minutes and beyond portals into like cosmic explosions every night, like there's something that opens up in women that's different than men when there's deep
mhm,
passionate cosmic lovemaking. There's like this deep way wide opening, like both partners that get to experience that, and it's gorgeous and stunning, but there's something a little extra for women that opens up when there's deep, profound lovemaking.
mhm,
And like it really can create like really strong feelings of like, oh my God, I'm in love with this person. We just met today for the
mhm,
first time. And it's like, I want to marry them and have their kids. And like, it really can evoke these like this deeper bouquet of longings and experiences in women that um, might be best served by not opening those up. So that I actually don't do these practices with people.
mhm,
If I know a relationship is kind of more on the casual side, I'm very careful about going to these depths.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, thank you for speaking to that because that has been my experience. And it's really important to take care of that. A lot of the times, if you're going to do it with someone who's not a long term person for you, but you're both really aware, it's good to do it as a sacred ritual and to see each other in a transpersonal light, what I call to transfigure each other, rather than making it about hooking in and attaching to this particular individual, ego structure. Yeah. Let's see. We're having some
We just
questions.
had probably one of the most important questions a man could ask about this practice asked in the chat. If the man lasts longer than the woman and leaves with a massive heart on, won't that drive the man crazy? Like you'll be wired, unable to sleep, or more likely to wake up exceptionally horny in the middle of the night. How do you handle this energy surge? So this is such a golden question, because actually a point of contention and a bit of a sore spot for men is that experience of being in a sexual occasion and like really building up lots of energy, lots of pressure in the genitals, lots of pleasure, and not being able to ejaculate. That experience can be really, really frustrating and physically painful. Like it can get so painful, it's like getting kicked in the balls.
Mhm,
So I have so much compassion and empathy for that experience. And the practices, the techniques, the breathing, the muscle locks, the internal processes we go through to do this practice well,
mhm,
actually really soften that.
mhm,
It's actually the medicine to blue balls, to use the colloquialism. Um, what happens energetically is that men are building pressure through sexual energy building in their genitals. And often it stays isolated to the genital region without getting dispersed evenly through the body or even outside of the body. And so it's kind of like taking a fire hose and just blasting. It gets to a point where it's like a fire hose blasting water into a bucket, and all the bucket gets full and the fire hose is just adding pressure, and it gets to a point where the water will spill out. Yeah.
mhm,
And that spilling out process is the ejaculation. But what if that spilling out doesn't happen? It doesn't relieve the pressure. So imagine all of that water, the fire hose, it's just staying in the bucket, and the water is actually just getting more compact and staying in there. It creates so much tension in the body and energy system. It's it's quite frankly an awful experience to hold when it gets painful and frustrating, like physically painful, mentally painful, emotionally painful, energetically painful, sexually painful. It's painful. And so when we learn to circulate the energy through our body, through our system, we breathe it up, we breathe it down, we breathe it everywhere, anywhere we want to, really, beyond that very small kind of micro container that is the genitals, and we expand our container to be larger and bigger, that pressure gets dispersed through a bigger container. So it's like taking that bucket and throwing it into a swimming pool, really. And so all of a sudden that pressure subsides, and that like pain and pressure in the genitals is gone. and it's amazing. This is blue balls medicine.
Yes. Yes, that's why this is a practice that requires dedication and it's a fairly technical, but when done correctly with the right energy circulation techniques and breathing and locks and all of these things, then you don't go crazy. And also, when you're having several energy orgasms over the course of lovemaking, it really relieves that. And additionally, sometimes men can get so good at taking their sexual energy and circulating it through their body that sometimes they need to put it back down into the genitals because it can lose some hardness if you're that good at circulating it. And then it becomes a dance between how much do I leave down, how much do I circulate, how hard do I want to be, and then it's a whole other ball game too because then it's not about am I going to ejaculate, it's about how hard do I want to be. Um, so there's a lot of different complexities as you can see, and but that's why it asks a lot of awareness, a lot of self-care, a lot of communication from you, but ultimately it's very beautiful. And when done correctly, you won't have to deal with these things too much. Yeah.
Yeah, and something we find with these practices is that if there is tension in the body and there is a buildup of energy somewhere, the way that our energy channels, the yogic name is nadi, N-A-D-I, our energy channels in the body, according to scripture, there's 72,000 energy channels in the body. And so what happens is they kind of get kinked like a garden hose. And when our energy channels get kinked, pressure builds up and it gets really uncomfortable. It manifests as tension, irritation, annoyance, agitation, anger, and in extreme
Mhm.
cases, like overt amplified irritability.
Mhm.
And learning these practices is actually beneficial to just keeping our energy channels open. And there's such a sweet peace when we can walk through this world with
Mhm.
open and clear energy channels when we do what I like to call our inner energetic housekeeping. And
Mhm.
these practices just do that. This is what they do.
Yeah.
And these are practices that I do at the gym on the treadmill or like
Mhm.
in the lineup at the grocery store. You know, it's like there's internal practices that we can do that nobody knows that we're doing.
Mhm.
And so I'm a big advocate and proponent of our inner energetic housekeeping so that those kinks don't actually build up and we can live life in this sweetest, easeful peace.
Yeah. These practices will make you feel more powerful in your life overall, not just in your sex life. Uh,
Hmm.
and I, as a woman, did most of these practices intensively myself, and it taught me how to have better energy orgasms and how to quietly circulate my energy when I'm standing in line at the grocery store. And it helps me also with the kinks and my own emotions as well.
When you get masterful, you can learn to give yourself energy orgasms without any sexual contact whatsoever.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, I think my mind went into like, oh, it must be from a past life. But the truth is, I don't know. But for whatever reason, when I first started learning these practices, something just clicked really quickly for me. It was like innate. It was like there was a seed that was already there that just needed a little bit of water for it to arrive and sprout. One of the first practices that I learned was learning how to give myself an energetic orgasm without any stimulation. And I remember one time, actually, the person that I was with, that I learned these practices with, it reached a point where it was clear that life was calling her in a different direction than a relationship.
Mhm.
And so we were so deeply in love with each other, and we both were like we love each other, and it's too, I'm getting chills telling this story. Like we love each other, and it's time for us to let each other go. Like you need to do this, love. Like I think you should go and go do this thing that life is calling you to do. And so like it was just such a tender, excruciatingly grief-stricken heartache. And I had to go to work the next day. And I remember being
Mhm.
at work, walking through my workplace, and like on the inside, I'm like crushed.
Mhm.
And I'm and it was a customer service job. So I was like, I need to like have my game face on and just like be like, like I had to be on. And so I'm like, just like, I just need to do these energetic orgasm practices at work to like just give me some type of a boost, because I was in grief and despair and just I was crushed. And so I'm like walking to the store and like breathing orgasms up my spine, energetic orgasms up my spine. And a coworker walks by and she's like, "Steve, you look really happy today." And I remember being like, uh, that's a very interesting reflection. I do not feel okay at all, but it's like a
Oh.
testimonial of the efficacy of the practice.
Mhm. Yeah, fantastic. Oh, sometimes I demonstrate energetic orgasms for the men that I work with, because y'all, I mostly coach men, and most of them look at me like, "What?" Like, "WTF?" And I invite them into, the practice that I'm doing, and we do it together. But unless they've really undergone a deep training in this, it's I think a little more challenging for most male bodies, not all. But so the fact that you can do that, I would say perhaps a past life. Yeah. And you can develop it through this training.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you want to share a practice, or otherwise I feel like
Yeah, I'd love to.
okay.
Something that I just riffed on was that quality of building up pressure and alleviating the pressure by having a bigger container. So we're
Mm,
going to do a quick practice. It's just a super simple entry-level breathing practice that really shows us the impact of our breath on the life force energy movement in our bodies. So, the experience that I'm desiring for you to have is to be attuned and really notice how your breath impacts how you feel. And so, we're going to exaggerate and play just a little bit. And this is one of the most foundational basic practices that makes one of the biggest differences when it comes to managing our ejaculation response. Especially comes in clutch when we're like at to use your number system, Jessica, at like a 9.9. Like we're
mm,
just kind of teetering on the edge of past the point of no return. This practice, the inclusion of this practice, is going to be one of your best friends.
mm,
So just wherever you are, sit relaxed and just try to have a relaxed and open kind of postured body. Like if you're kind of like huddled in the corner somewhere and kind of clenched down and you kind of get your knees up at your chest, find a way to just elongate your body a little bit, stretch out your legs a little bit, stretch out your arms, and just kind of loosen up your body a bit to open up the energy channels in our system, because our posture matters. And
mm.
so we'll just take one deep breath together, no instruction beyond that, just an equal inhale and exhale to come back to center. So the theory behind this practice is that our inhale brings in life force. Our inhale is an inherently life force amplifying process. The exhale is a life force depleting process. And so our breath is in this continual dance of building life force, letting it go.
Mm.
We can use this theory skillfully, because when we need to build energy or we desire to have a more vital, energized, life force fueled body, the focus we want to do is how we're bringing in the energy through our breath and how we're letting it go also. So the practice is next, we're going to take, let's start with 2 deep breaths where we have a huge inhale and shallow exhale. Like you're barely going to, no force in letting that exhale go. So I'll just demonstrate quickly. So it looks something like it just kind of empties itself on its own time, rather than like a forceful yang kind of exerted exhale. It's kind of like a yin relaxed exhale. So what we're going to watch for is how that big exhale builds energy in our body. You might notice you feel more alert, a little bit more energized. So big exhale, shallow inhale. Let's do it twice. I'm noticing right now, like it's almost like my body's a balloon and the air inside of it, the full air is like pushing pressure on the outsides of my container a little bit. And like there's almost like this like almost slight discomfort pressure, but there's also a noticeable tingle in our body. in my body.
I
And
have a
that
question.
tingle is something to pay attention to pay very close attention to, because the way that expanded life force in our system feels often feels like a tingling sensation, almost like our hand goes asleep, but without the numbness and kind of dissociative qualities of that. It's like a tingle, but an alive, alert, present tingle. So,
I want to make sure I understood you correctly. I have a question. I think
yes.
you meant to say a strong inhale and a relaxed exhale. Is that
Did
right?
if I said that wrong, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay.
Big, huge, expanded inhale
Aha.
and completely relaxed exhale. So, like no effort or force on the exhale at all. So if I said that incorrectly, thank you so much for correcting me. Yes. So a big inhale that's very huge and forceful, and a relaxed exhale. And so the energetic qualities of that is we're bringing in lots of life force with the breath and letting go very little of it. And so if you feel tired like throughout your day, this is a great practice. If you need a quick boost and you don't want to take any more caffeine, like say it's like in the evening or something like that, just big inhale, shallow exhale. So to flip that, and this is where it comes in clutch with the ejaculation retention and control practice, is that when we have that urge to ejaculate, there's a lot of energy in our system that needs to be alleviated or circulated or off-gassed somehow. And so the breath is a great way to do that. So the reciprocal is, let's take a shallow inhale and a big exhale. So exactly the opposite of what we just did. And it looks like this. So it's like this like soft, graceful, like slow, shallow inhale. Like we're not inhaling a lot and we're really blowing that breath outward on the exhale. Like I actually feel down regulated a little bit and like almost like kind of sleepy, like I took some melatonin or something like that. Like or like someone sang me a lullaby or something like that. Like I immediately feel the difference that it has on my body. So let's do it twice together. Hopefully I don't fall asleep. Let's go.
Okay.
So just the shallowest, wimpiest inhale and big potent exhale to let it go. And just blow it out until there's nothing left in your lungs. One of the practices that I do, and hopefully you got this. If you felt something, I would love to hear about it in the chat room. If you have questions, like you didn't quite get it, that's okay. I just want to say that like it's okay if we don't get it. Like these practices work, not only myself, but they're well documented in spiritual traditions, both Tantric and Taoist. So these practices work, and people all over the world validate and vouch for them, myself included. Like 100% absolute bulletproof certainty that these practices work because I've lived them. I've learned them from teachings from other people who have lived them, and I've helped unlock these teachings through my workshops and coaching and retreats that I've done. They work. And so if you didn't get it, it just takes a little bit more time. Some people have varying degrees of energetic attunement with the life force in their body. And so the trick is to just be patient and keep practicing. And I trust that in the moment where we're out of this webinar and we're building energy through a sexual occasion, because body friction is a very energy amplifying process, right? We rub our hands together and our hands get tingly, life force energy building, they get hot. Like bodily friction, including lovemaking, is life force energy amplifying. So I trust that whatever energetic attunement will be unlocked for you, if you're not getting it now, will happen in lovemaking. So just give it time and be patient. Yeah.
And if you're single, you can definitely train this in your own self-pleasure practice too. You don't have to have a partner to do this, to train this for yourself. Yeah.
That is just such an important little nugget. Yeah. Like I actually recommend learning these practices alone before. It's kind of like practice. Like if you're a football player, you practice 2 or 3 times a week before the big game on the weekend, right? So I'm a big advocate for solo practice. Yeah.
Yes, I also highly recommend that way, and that's what some of what I will teach you, what we will teach you in the course. So, thank you for that practice for sharing that, Stephen. I have a question to talk more about the upcoming course. Should we speak to that now?
Take it away.
All right, guys. So the course starts, I believe, October 4th. It's 8 Wednesdays with a break in there for Thanksgiving in America. And Wednesday evenings, there'll be live courses every week with both me and Stephen on the calls. And we'll be giving you guided practices so that builds over time systematically for you to really start to develop the energy work, the breath work, the visualization, all of the techniques, the locks, everything you need in order to really, really be on your way in this practice. And, that'll include, I'm sure, guided audio practices, videos, all kinds of things. This is the first time we're running this together. So who knows what sorts of bonuses we'll be throwing in there. But one of the bonuses is you get a year free subscription to Stephen's platform, RelationFlix, which is a fantastic resource full of courses on everything you could ever want to know about relationships and sex. Yes. So I think that's the high level overview of the course. Did you want to say anything else, Stephen?
Yeah, one thing that a bit of my origin story that I'll tell that's meaningful is it's an 8-week program. Technically, it lasts for 9 weeks. When I first started learning the practice, it took me about 3 weeks before I really started noticing a difference in the way my body behaved. And it took about 6 weeks of devotion to the practice, like 3 times a week plus, kind of being in the training grounds of it. The 6-week mark, there was a sweet threshold that I crossed that my body was like, okay, I kind of get it. And things kind of started to click for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it, just to manage everyone's expectations, is that it actually took me probably about 5 years before I really felt like I was like, okay, I got this. And we really want to get you results, and they're definitely possible, especially if you're all in and you play full out with us. And everybody's different, and the practice does take time for you to be like, plant my staff in the ground and be like, I'm a master at this. So I just wanted to be honest about the process. And yeah, our sole objective is to make sure that when you're at the end of the program, you have everything that you need to continue your sexual mastery journey. And something that I love to say is that, the time is going to pass anyways. You might as well be working on your sexual mastery while that time passes. And
Mm-hmm.
so Jessica and I are going to give you everything that you need to have a well-rounded ejaculation retention practice that at some point or another, maybe you're a savant and you get it in a week, maybe it takes you 6 weeks, maybe it takes you 12, however that arrives for you. We're going to give you everything that you need to arrive there.
And this includes how to talk to your partner about it, or how to talk to a woman you might be on a first date with about it. So the relational aspect as well. Yeah. Yes. And there was one other thing I wanted to speak to there. I think
One
that's
thing I'll
all.
put on the table is if that there's a financial block for you, like if you're a yes to this program, but you're like, oh, like the money piece is at play, and like fair play if it is, because inflation's insane. There are a couple flexible payment plan options. So you can make 2 payments on the program if you'd like. And there's also a buy now, pay later option with a firm that we've implemented. So there's a couple choices that you have there.
Yeah, if you click through to the payment page, you'll see the buy now, pay later option. And yeah, that lets you divide the payments up a lot. Yes. All right. Well, this was like very fun. I love talking about this topic. I hope you guys can see that. And it's brought so much to my life personally. And I know that it'll be a gift to all of your partners when you bring it to them. Um, yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Stephen?
Yeah, I think just one more testimonial to the practice. Um, I came from a place where I was not skilled with women and had pretty much zero sexual confidence. I was like
Mhm.
this like scared, timid little creature who like had a very hard time approaching women. And one of the biggest gifts of this practice for me was the utter confidence in myself to know that I can take my women to very deep places in lovemaking that are
Mm.
beautiful, sensual, heart expanded, soul expanded, cosmic. Like, this is a place that I know how to go, and it's a huge gift that I have to offer. And so coming into a relationship with this self-confidence that I actually have something really magical to offer has just done so much for my relational sexual confidence. It's
Mm.
been profound to like see this like timid little creature to like, oh, it's been wonderful, and I wish that for all of you too.
Yes, and women are craving the type of men that this practice produces. Men who have the ability to go slow, to breathe deeply, to attune both to their own body and to hers, to exchange energy together. I mean, this is really what the women of the world are asking men for today when it comes to sex. It is the ultimate confidence boost for you as a lover.
And we haven't even touched the spiritual benefits of the practice yet. Like the way that it transforms us, like having this sacred life force flood our body that we get to be super intimate, deliberate, and creative with. It's almost like we're playing with spirit when we're doing these practices. And the way that it just has us be so deeply intimate with the sacred is, it's transformational, like transformational long term. It's like our body is designed to store the memory of our peak experiences, whether they're the most excruciatingly painful or the most ecstatically orgasmically blissful. Our body remembers that, all of them, uh, deeply. And
Mhm.
so when we can repetitively go into these like super luscious, cosmically expansive lovemaking spaces, we're literally programming our body for bliss and ecstasy, because these peak experiences get stored in our body and ultimately stabilize as a way of being over time. So
Mm.
yeah, and you're
Yes.
invited to join us with that.
Yes. All right. I look forward to seeing all of you in the course. I cannot wait to share this with you guys. I know I walk around in awe every day whenever I remember these experiences, and in awe and wonder at the magic that we're capable of in our bodies. And it's free. You learn this, you can do it anytime you want, free of charge. It's totally healthy and available to all of us. And it's just a tragedy that we don't all get taught it from the get go.
Well, I'm happy to call it a night. So it was so good to have all of you. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us in the chat room and asked amazing questions. It was really great, super stimulating and invigorating. And I hope to see a lot of you in the program. Good night, everybody.
Bye for now.